Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Catherine Grill, CEO of Neolth, and welcome back to another Neolth Ask the Experts live stream event. I'm really excited to be here today talking about the topic that you all voted for in the Neolth app community poll with none other than Dr. Claire Wheeler. So before we jump in, I was wondering, Dr. Wheeler, if you could just quickly say hello and introduce yourself to the group.
Hi, I had to unmute. I am Dr. Claire Wheeler. I am the Chief Medical Officer at Neolth and an Associate Professor of Public Health at the OHSU School of Public Health in Portland, Oregon.
Thanks, Dr. Wheeler, for being here today. I'm really excited about the topic for today because it's overcoming insomnia. And I feel like that's just so spot on with the time of year. It's the end of October. It's almost Halloween. The days are getting shorter, which means it's just getting darker. And that really starts to impact sleep and sleep cycles. So you all voted for it, and it feels, like I said, spot on with the time of the year. So before we jump into tips and tricks for how to manage insomnia, I thought, Dr. Wheeler, maybe you could start us off with just defining what is insomnia and why does it matter?
This is such a great topic, and I'm really glad that our users are interested in learning about it because it is a growing problem among people of all ages, but particularly young people because brains are developing. It's a time of learning and growth. And so sleep is absolutely essential for all of those things. And what happens at night while you're sleeping is that melatonin levels go up in your brain, and melatonin is a powerful antioxidant. And so what happens during sleep is a lot of the oxidative damage and other things that get built up by you're very busy. Your brain is very metabolically busy. So it makes waste basically. And sleep is when that gets cleaned out. So you can wake up with a fresh brain if you can sleep well. So insomnia generally causes people to wake up poorly rested, even if they can get out of bed. And it really can have an impact on thinking and productivity all day long, as well as emotional regulation. There's two basic types of insomnia. One is having trouble getting to sleep, and the other type is having trouble staying asleep. And the strategies for each are slightly different. So there are some general principles that we'll cover, and then we might look a little bit at those two different types of insomnia that have different causes and different solutions.
Thanks, Dr. Wheeler. Really important to know why, it's even matters to be talking about insomnia. But I liked how you brought up that not sleeping well can impact our emotional health, the way that we feel, the way we're able to kind of manage our emotions and interact with others, which would then affect our social relationships and even our ability to be productive and to think, really function, whether or not we're in school or the work environment. So all important things. I'm really excited to hear about those two different types of insomnia because that's something I didn't know about. So maybe we can jump in there talking about the different types of insomnia. And I know you had some kind of tips and tricks for us as to how to manage insomnia if you are struggling with it.
Yeah, this is super important. And for each individual, it is important to identify, what type of sleeper you are and what's going to work best for you. So with the phrase sleep latency, basically refers to the time it takes from the time you lay down and decide to go to sleep and actually fall asleep. And the goal here is to make that time period as short as possible, because for many people, waiting and trying to go to sleep, it creates more anxiety, which then of course shifts the activity of your brain into a more waking state. So if you have a lot of sleep latency, like it's time for bed, but you just can't fall asleep. And most people who have this, what they say is, my mind won't stop, my mind won't slow down. And this also applies to people who wake up in the middle of the night. This is a technique that can be useful for both because it's basically getting to sleep. And it's a form of autogenic training, and which is a type of self-hypnosis. And it really is about using the content of your thoughts to try to get them off of what is keeping you going around and around and focusing them on specifically calming your body. Now, there's an old adage about counting sheep, and that doesn't really work as well for everyone, but you can use simple commands or simple imagery exercises. And one of the most powerful is imagining that your body's getting very heavy. In these types of activities that we do in mind body medicine, when I say the word heavy, what my body hears is muscle relaxation. And we use this all the time, like in progressive muscle relaxation exercises and others. So just lying in the bed and imagining that you're sinking ever lower, and then using that, your body as sort of the thing that you bring your mind back to. For many people, that's helpful in getting to sleep. And when you pair that imagery with a breathing pattern that is calming to the brain, which I'll talk about in a minute, then your mind and body can both relax, and you can make space for you to fall asleep or fall back asleep in the middle of the night. So that's one sort of approach.
All right, so let's see if I've got that. When you're having difficulty with sleep latency, it means you're having difficulty falling asleep right away. And I bet a lot of you out there listening can definitely relate if you're just lying in bed at night. I know this happens to me, especially when I've had a lot of caffeine. So curious how substances play a role in this, but just like cannot fall asleep, thoughts racing. So that's an opportunity to use things like you said, autogenic training, which is a form of self-hypnosis. Really curious about that. I know we have a couple autogenic practices on the Neolth app that you've actually narrated. And then breathing exercises and imagery exercises as well to kind of visualize that you're falling asleep and your body is getting heavy. So anything else, Dr. Willer? Any other tips or tricks for those people who are struggling to fall asleep?
Yes, definitely. So that's one area. It's like, what do I do when I'm actually in bed? But there's two other things for you to think about, whether you have long sleep latency or you're a middle of the night riser. And by the way, there are many neuroscientists, psychologists, and others who believe that our ancestors did have 2 sleeps per night. And even up to the 18th and 19th centuries, there's a lot of evidence in people's diaries and things that they wake up, spend a couple hours out of bed, and then they go back to bed, like say from 2 to 4 in the morning. Now, that's not practical for most of us, but it is, I think, helpful to understand that for a lot of people, it's not abnormal to wake at 2 a.m. The problem is when your mind starts going and you can't stop it. And so there's the environment, the sleeping environment. That's the second thing. So one, what do I do while I'm in bed? Number two, what do I do to create an environment that's conducive to good sleep? And so obviously noise and light are the two major things. But another thing to think about, not only getting rid of all the light in your room, and that means you don't have this digital clock by your bed, you're not charging your phone by your bed, you're not going to sleep with your laptop on, all of these kinds of light. We all have heard this over and over. But it's also important to think about more light during the day, especially during autumn and winter, because if you aren't getting enough light during the day, then you aren't fully activated. So you don't have that yin yang cycle of the day and night, where you're activated during the day and stimulated by light and sound and movement. And then at night, you have the opposite. So I would think about, especially if you have mood issues or lack of motivation and fatigue during the day, try, like I have this. It's a full spectrum light, and I have it by my computer, and I have it on for a while in the morning. So that way I know my brain is fully awake in the morning. That actually will help you fall asleep at night. So what I would do is take a survey of your room, make sure that there's no light coming in your windows. I'm a renter, so I use thumbtacks and blackout drapes over my window because I don't want any extra light coming in, and I don't own the place. Other things that people often overlook are your smoke detector. If it's not a red light, very often just that tiny little green bit will be stimulating to the brain. So do a sound and light check in your sleeping space. Also make sure it's not either too cold or too hot. Very often, if you heat the room the same temperature that you have it all day, that's a little too warm for sleeping.
Okay, great to know. So thinking about the environment, temperature, making it a little bit more cold, trying to reduce noise, trying to reduce light. I never would have thought about the little green light on the smoke detector, but that's good to know. That's interesting. Curious about those sun lamps that you were showing before. So I'm out here in California where we're fortunate to get sun a lot during the year. And I've noticed since I've moved out here, I definitely sleep better because I'm just outside almost all year round, getting, it sounds like, that good sun during the day, so easier to sleep at night. But if people are living in other places where it gets darker, there isn't as much sunlight, where can they go? Where can they buy those sun lamps, or are there certain ones that are better than others? Oh, hold on one second. Just waiting for Dr. Wheeler to come on. There we go.
I had to unmute. It's only been 2 years and I still forget sometimes. Yeah, you want to make sure that it's full spectrum, that it's made specifically for SAD. It's made for seasonal affective disorder, but you don't have to have that to benefit from this light. The main goal is you want that stimulation in the morning so that your brain you're training your brain essentially. And you know a lot about this because you're a neuroscientist, but you get that stimulation and those parts of your brain become active. And so you want to just create more of a contrast between day and night. I'm in Oregon, so this works really well for me because we have a lot of dark mornings and I need that to help me get going.
I feel like I've learned so much, even though I am a neuroscientist. Sleep medicine's not my area, so I've learned about, different types of insomnia, trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep during the night. Never knew that our ancestors sometimes woke up in the middle of the night for a couple of hours. That's super cool. I'm going to look into that. We learned about a couple different tricks if you're lying in bed thinking about things like breathing exercises, relaxation exercises that we have on Neolth, autogenic practices as well, and then about creating that good environment to fall asleep. As we're wrapping up here, Dr. Wheeler, any last kind of tips or tricks for people who might be struggling with insomnia?
Yeah, I have just a couple other thoughts. And one of them is weighted blankets actually are very helpful. If with the holidays coming up, if you can snag one as a gift, it's really, really makes a difference in helping people relax their muscles. Another thing is in the evenings, magnesium is really helpful. So like pumpkin seeds, walnuts, something with a little bit of fat and fiber is an okay snack near bedtime because it's soothing. Magnesium supplementation. I don't really recommend melatonin long-term, but magnesium supplementation or even milk, if you can tolerate milk, that has amino acids in it that are relaxing. So there are a variety of things you can do. And I think we all know, don't drink caffeine at night and stuff like that. But there are a lot of different approaches you can take, and it's important to just be patient with yourself. Understand, again, that bit about human physiology and history, that maybe not all of us are really naturally meant to sleep all night long. But be gentle, be kind with yourself, create your own little sleeping cave and protect it, and you will sleep better.
Yeah, really fascinating about the nutrition. I knew not to have caffeine at night. I think, like you said, most of us know that, but didn't know about the magnesium supplement. So it sounds like diet can really be part of it, and not just getting it through supplements, but also, you said, pumpkin seeds, different foods. So I feel like we could have a whole nother live stream just about nutritional medicine and how the different things that we're eating affect our mental health, our physical health, and our sleep cycle as well. But gosh, I learned so much, like I said, about making the environment appropriate for sleep, different practices that you can do to help you relax if you're struggling to sleep. And then lastly, just thinking about, nutrition at night. So thank you, Dr. Wheeler. We learned so much today. I want to be mindful of everybody's time because I know that it is a Thursday and some of you might be in between classes at school. So Dr. Wheeler, any last thoughts or advice for people who are struggling with insomnia?
Just want to say sweet dreams and sleep well.
Well said. Sweet dreams, everybody. So thanks so much for being here today. This was a Neolth Ask the Experts live stream event where we talked about overcoming insomnia. As a reminder, you can vote for the topic of these live stream events in the Neolth app. In our community polls, it's anonymous. Vote for whatever you want. You can even make a suggestion of what you want us to talk about next month. And thanks for being here today. We'll see you next month in November. Bye, everyone.